Thank you for joining me here at the Real ResQ, where we are in collaboration with Vertical Magazine. We've created the Vertical Podcast Network known as Helicast. And you can check it out at verticalhelicast.com to check out the Hangar Z podcast, the Helicopter podcast, and Vertical MRO podcast. We've got more coming, so keep an eye on that webpage. Now let's take a moment to say thank you to our sponsors. Switlick Survival Products. They manufacture the highest quality, safety, and survival products for aviation, marine, and military markets. Check them out at switlick.com. Axness. Their mission, wireless intercom. Check them out today at axness.com. Bell, where they go above and beyond flight. Check them out at bellflight.com. And therealrescuestore.com. Go get all your swag to support this podcast at therealrescuestore.com. Now, coming up next, this is a piece of the multimedia collaboration we did for this agency. Not only do you get search and rescue stories here on The Real ResQ, but their law enforcement side is covered by the Hangar Z podcast. Then Vertical Magazine wrote an entire article detailing even more about what these guys do. And then while I was there, we did 2 days worth of training that's all in a documentary. In the description of this episode, you'll find the links to all of it. So go check it out when you get a chance. It is epic. Now let's introduce the guys that are coming on for this episode. We've got Chris Haas, Nigel Cooper, Larry Matelli, and Jamal Cook, all from the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office. My name is Jason Quinn. I am United States Coast Guard Rescue Swimmer number 500. These are my rescues and rescues from those of us that put our lives on the line every day so others may live. This is the Real ResQ Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Real ResQ Podcast. We are here with the Sonoma County Sheriff Boys here in Sonoma County, California, sitting in front of your helicopter, Henry 1. What's up, fellas?
How are you?
Hey,
Awesome. All right, so from left to right, I've got Chris Haas. Hey, tactical flight officer, and you're a man in charge around here, or that's what they tell me.
Yeah.
Or that's what you told me.
Yeah, trust me, these guys don't think that, but yeah, that's technically I'm in charge, I guess.
I like it. So you are the unit sergeant for the air station, the
Yep.
base. Nice.
Yep.
Okay. And then next to you is going to be Nigel Cooper. You are the pilot here
Today, yep.
today. And where are you from?
New Zealand originally.
That's right. Welcome to America. Whee! You picked a good place to come. I just want to throw that out there. I mean, wine country and all. I know you guys have your own wine down there, but
It's no coincidence.
I like it. I like it. And to his right is going to be Larry Matelli.
Matelli.
Matelli, I got that right. And you are also one of the tactical flight officers and the deputy sheriff here, yeah?
Yes, I am.
Nice. And to the right of that, we've got Jamal Cook. He's the rescue medic.
How we doing?
What's up? So for those that don't see this, we are literally outside of your hangar. The aircraft is behind us. The runway is just on the other side of that for Sonoma County Airport. And we there's a good possibility we're going to have some planes like taxiing by. It's going to
Let's
get
hope
loud.
so.
Yep.
Let's hope so.
We'll end up turning it down. We'll turn it back up. We'll be like, oh, here we go. Nice. Well, gentlemen, thank you for joining me here. I'm really excited about this because you guys have a lot of different roles as the sheriff's office. Is that right? Or, yeah, the sheriff's office out here. And so you do law enforcement, obviously, as part of the sheriff's office. You do firefighting, so you guys can do Bambi bucket work and drop water on fires from time to time. You do medevac stuff. And then you do what I'm here for, search and rescue. Yeah, buddy.
Absolutely.
Now, what you guys are flying, so you're flying on a Bell 407, and the rescue stuff that you guys do is long line or short haul. So you have two lines, 100 foot, and then a 200 foot that you can make, a 50 foot and then 150 foot. Is that right?
250. So yeah, we can
250,
Yeah, so
sorry.
we can go up to 250 feet.
Dang. Do you use that?
Occasionally, there's some, in this county, there's some pretty tall trees, but especially when we go out of county to Marin, one county south of us, there's some timber up there that definitely requires 250 feet. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Dang. Yeah, that's a lot. That's pretty cool. But everything's long line here, which I think is like just incredible. And actually, so for those that don't know, like Sonoma County, California, we're just north, we're like an hour north of San Francisco. But what's unique about this area that you guys respond in is that, I mean, we're in wine country, so it's pretty like flat and level here in the Santa Rosa area, kind of rolling hills around us. But then you go towards the coast, which you guys are responsible for. It's like mountain or like thick, deep valleys and gullies. And then all of a sudden you've got rocky cliff faces right out to the ocean. And you guys respond to all of it.
It's our job. It's what keeps us in business. So, yeah, absolutely.
You like it out here?
It's where I'm born and raised, man. I haven't gone very far. Same with, I think, other than Nigel, who's come a long way, the rest of us didn't really go very far. So, yeah, we love it here.
Local.
Same ocean.
Same what?
No, same ocean.
That's right. It's just on the opposite side. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, I grew up about 10 minutes that way.
Oh, right on. Okay, so just past the airport where that plane's going. Got it. All
exactly.
Right. Going south. Nice. Now, are you guys, all right, so I know you're from New Zealand, Nigel. From here?
I was born and raised in Sonoma. I live in Petaluma now.
Nice. So easy right around here, and then you're from here as well.
Yep, from Santa Rosa. And first job I ever had was working at a flight school at the airport. That's when I decided that this was the job I wanted to do. And I'm about 100 yards south of where I had my first job, and this is the second job I've had. So, yeah,
that's awesome.
Again, haven't gone very far. So
beautiful. All right, so Nigel, how did you get here?
On a plane.
Well, all right, thank you, Captain Obvious. All right, so we got that one.
You can edit that part out.
Absolutely. That is going to stay right there. No, so what brought you to here to this department?
My wife, really. So back in the day when I was flying in the New Zealand military, we used to use a simulator at Fort Lewis, which is now Joint Base Lewis McChord in Washington State. And following one of those trips, I was skiing up and around Mount Rainier, and I met this American woman, and long-distance relationship, convinced her to move down under. We got married. She lived in New Zealand for more than a decade, and then we made the move back 14 years ago.
Wow.
And then I got out of the military and into the commercial helicopter world, and she ended up taking a job down here, and I was commuting back to Oregon for a bit. I had my own plane and was flying back and forth and was all over the place. And then, saw this job and jumped at it and haven't looked back.
Oh, that's fantastic. Nice. All right, Larry, what about you? How did you get into Henry 1?
So I've been a deputy since 2007. I started in Marin County, the county just south of us. And, I'd always wanted to work in Sonoma because that's where I grew up.
Yep.
So eventually I lateraled up here in 2012. Growing up around here, I always knew about Henry 1. In fact, I was kind of pulled over by Henry 1 when I was in high school. So.
You pulled over by the helicopter?
Yeah, kind of funny.
What the? Okay, I gotta know. How do you get how does that even happen? Like,
the searchlight.
Oh my God, dude.
There was a crime that happened. We just happened to be driving out of the area, my buddy and I, and the spotlight was on us. We pulled over wondering what's going on, and there was like 20 cops. We got pulled out on a high-risk stop, and we were released because we weren't involved, but kind of funny. So, yeah, growing up, I always knew about Henry 1. So when I lateraled up here, I had the joy and the luxury of getting to do a fly-along with them, and I was hooked.
Sweet. I like that.
Just happened to be leaving the area. Huh?
Just happened to be leaving the area. But back we had our old camera, too. The truck didn't even match the description, so...
Noted. Yeah, that's what they all say, right?
Exactly.
It couldn't have been me. This doesn't just script. That doesn't match. What? Oh, it's funny. All right, Jamal, how did you get set up into the Henry 1 as a rescue medic?
So, being a rescue medic, my full-time job is a fire captain with Marin County Fire.
You're sitting next to cops, right? Okay, I make sure.
I'm gonna throw the jokes out there. I'm gonna throw the shade. My boss is right here. I grew up in Sonoma, so being a fire explorer in Sonoma, like you're exposed to the fire department and the medical side of stuff. And being a fire explorer in Sonoma, there was calls that Henry 1 would go on, so I kind of got a little bit of exposure and thought, like, oh man, one day that would be super cool to be able to be part of that unit. Well, fast forward, 15 plus years or whatever, ended up going to paramedic school, got hired with Marin County Fire Department. Our paramedics out there work in pretty rural areas, so a lot of times we're solo. I became a rescue swimmer with them, got into the rope stuff, and a buddy, a coworker who was a member up here said, hey, you kind of have some skill set that unit will be looking for. Why don't you apply? And I came up here and checked these guys out a couple of times and took a test in 2017 and ended up getting picked up and have been here since.
Wow, that's awesome. Now, Chris, I'm going to come back to you real quick. You didn't really totally tell us how you got involved with Henry One. So what was your path?
So I never thought I wanted to be a cop. I always was really into aviation growing up. And then I worked at a flight school. One of our students at the flight school was working on Henry One we have some part-time deputies that are flight officers here. So he did that, but he was a full-time, he worked patrol. And so I just graduated high school, was going to the junior college here, and he said, you should go on a ride along with me. Not in the helicopter, that would have really hooked me. But long story short, I went on a ride along with him, and I realized that this was the right career for me. And I knew that, well, they have a helicopter, so I can do the aviation thing, but the cop thing actually seems kind of the right skill set. So kind of all in on that. Got hired when I was 22 as a deputy sheriff, and then worked on patrol for about 11 years. Applied for the helicopter, got picked up as a full-time flight officer here, and then was able to promote as the unit supervisor about a year ago. So,
Man, congratulations.
yeah, man, it's been awesome. It's been super awesome.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
So I want to let everybody know. So we're gonna dive into some rescues right like coming up right now. But before I say that, I want to tell everybody how I got connected with you guys, because I think it's awesome, and that is God bless Instagram. All right. I'm going to throw that out there, because all of a sudden there was a post that you guys had done, a rescue. And I specifically remember this one because I loved it so much. And if I remember correctly, it got a lot of views. But you guys are picking a lady up down in a trench. And as you're coming up, and I believe, Larry, I think you were actually on the line. So you're coming out and you have this lady. You had one of the rescuemen with it. Who was that? Was it?
I think this was I had Scott Kwan, so one of our paramedics. Yeah,
Okay.
Who works for Petaluma Fire. But, yep.
Right on. So the greatest part about this is as you're coming up, the lady's like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I'm so sorry to inconvenience you. And as she's riding underneath the helicopter, you're like, no inconvenience. This is no problem. This is what we do. We're here for you. Oh my gosh, you guys are so amazing. Just straight up having a conversation. Like, she was legitimately upset that she took you out to doing whatever you're supposed to be doing.
Yep.
That is how we connected. I was like, I need to talk to you guys, because that is insane awesome. So
My neck.
Yeah.
My neck.
I gotcha.
What a trip. Thanks, you guys.
You're very welcome.
So sweet.
You're okay. Right here.
So sorry for all this trouble.
No, not trouble at all. Not trouble at all.
Yes, it is.
No. All right, we're just gonna lay you right down, okay? There you go.
I love it. You guys have done amazing. But all right,
Thank
so
you.
let's start with this. Chris, if you don't mind, what was your very first rescue here at Henry One?
So my first rescue, it was kind of a convoluted day. We were actually training. So we had two paramedics that day. We were training a brand new paramedic. It was his first day, and one of my first shifts solo, being signed off as a flight officer. So we had gone to a plane crash in Sonoma that was pretty horrific, and we ended up transporting one of the kids to Children's Hospital in Oakland. She ultimately died.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
Fortunately, there were multiple victims. So actually, our second paramedic ended up going in a ground ambulance, because it was an MCI thing, to Queen of the Valley Hospital, which is in Napa County. So we clear Children's Hospital. We have to actually fly to Queen of the Valley in Napa to pick up our other medic. So we pick him up, and then we're flying back into Sonoma. And literally, as we're coming in, like over the mountains into Sonoma from Napa, this mountain bike rescue comes out in Annandale State Park, which we're like 2 minutes from. So it was like, oh, I guess we're going to do, and we had plenty of gas. So it was like, I guess we're going to do my first rescue. So literally, this lady goes over the handlebars on a trail up there that I'm actually super familiar with, because I ride up there, and broke her collarbone. And it was funny because we had two medics, and they were like, yep, this is a BLS call, dude. It's all you. And I was like, I guess it's time to do it. So that was my first one, and it was an action-packed day to say the least. But it was unfortunately all that tragedy that happened earlier in the day. At least there was a positive part of the day.
Dang, man.
Yeah, it was cool.
Wow. So you were busy your first, we're going to call it first day.
First day, yeah, my first real day of doing this like all by myself. Yeah, it was it was a pretty busy day. So
Man, nice, dude.
Yeah,
And you stuck with it ever since. That's killer.
Yeah. Greatest job at the sheriff's office, to say the least. So,
Dude, I love it, man. I love it. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Nigel, what was your first here at Henry One?
My first day by myself flying, we got a call in Tamales Bay of multiple people in the water, and it was 30 knots of wind. There's an island out there where all the clammers go to get the clams. We call it Clam Island.
Okay.
And so I guess that the boat had been overturned. Some had made it ashore, some hadn't, and we head on out there, and we did not have a paramedic on that day, so it was just the tactical flight officer and myself. We sweep into the bay, and we see someone running along the beach, quite frantic, waving their arms. And so I set up to make an approach for them. We don't initially see anyone in the water, but it was pretty rough. And as I'm approaching the guy on the beach, we see a guy behind him in the surf drowning. So he's getting rolled up in the surf and is actively drowning. So we fly past this guy that's waving his arms around, and we land on the beach. The flight officer jumps out and just runs and grabs him, drags this guy out of the surf. And he had mild hypothermia and cramps and was crab-like, so that when the flight officer picked him up to drag him up, his legs just came up with him, like he couldn't extend his legs.
Wow.
Or anything. So meanwhile, the guy that was on the beach comes up to the helicopter and says that his buddy's out there somewhere. And so the flight officer comes back, dumps the first guy on the beach, grabs the rope out. I take off, and he took my door off, and I go looking for the guy, and it takes me about 10 seconds to find him. Unfortunately, he was face down in the water. So I come back. The flight officer's already attached to the bottom end of the line. He hooks the top end of the line to the helicopter. We go and pull this guy out of the water, and we get him back up on shore, within a minute. And then we're just completely isolated. It's just us. Our comrades from the highway patrol were inbound in their helicopter. And so I dropped the victim and the flight officer off on a little road just above the beach. And there's one spot to land a helicopter there, but I didn't want to take that spot up because the highway patrol had 2 medics on. So they needed to land there. So I went and landed on the front lawn of a vacation house, shut down, hiked my way back through the bushes, got back, and together we worked on the guy for about 40 minutes. And unfortunately, he didn't make it. The other guy that we pulled out of the surf, he thawed out and was otherwise okay. And that was my first Tuesday by myself. And we have a phrase that we've coined from that event now that's called Any Given Tuesday.
Any Given Tuesday.
The truth, man. It's
Wow.
absolutely true.
It's like, yes, we typically do more rescues at the weekend. There's more action, but any given Tuesday, it can kind of just turn to custard.
Oh my gosh. Nigel, man, thank you for sharing that story. That's wow. Yeah, I appreciate that one. One of the things that we haven't actually touched on too much here is like the water temperature out here in Sonoma and off the coast here. It's about 50 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit. What's that in Celsius there, bud? I think it's like 12. That's what I was going to say. I was going to say 12. Yes. Yeah, it's cold. And I don't think people actually understand that because it's like, it's easily like 100 degrees during the summertime, maybe more, like during the day out here in like, a wine country area, but you go to the coast and it gets cold and cold quick, especially in the water. So, and that was Fahrenheit too. 40 degree. Wait, is it 40? 40 degrees Celsius is about 100 and 104.
38's 100.
38.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I was close. Man, I got flipped that from time to time. All right, Larry, what about you? What was your first rescue here with Henry One?
Yeah, so I wish mine was a little bit better, but mine's a little dark like Nigel's first one too. So I was still on training. I think I'd only been on the unit for maybe about a month. And we got a call of it came out as like an ocean rescue, cliff rescue. So down in Marin County.
Yeah.
And so we got on scene, and we found out later on what had happened was this guy was diagnosed with terminal cancer. So he decided to end his life by jumping off the cliff. So we got on scene. The fire department, they were able to make their way down to him, but he was right in the surf. And so the water was coming in, about ready to actually pull him out. So we long lined in. It was myself and one of our paramedics, one of our rescue medics. And so we were able to put him in the Traverse Rescue stretcher and then basically fly him out to a nearby parking lot. But that was my first, time actually being on the long line where we were doing something other than training. So about a month in of being a brand new TFO.
Wow, man. That's wild. Dude, you guys see some stuff out here.
Yeah, for sure.
And I do have more stories that are coming that are happy endings too.
Yep.
Like they're good. But I mean, you guys,
Yeah.
you definitely see some stuff out here for sure.
Yeah, poor Nigel and I, we had a run for like 2 months where we didn't rescue any live people. It was just recoveries.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, like you said, the nature of, the water here, as soon as somebody gets in it, and even like with our, we can get to the coast fast from here, but, by the time people call 911, okay, you're talking 15, 20 minutes till we can get there. And so unfortunately, I think we've all seen our fair share of bad outcomes.
Yep.
So it's just the nature of the beast out here.
Yeah. Yep. Wow. All right, Jamal, you're up. What was your first rescue with Henry 1?
So here, I think my first rescue was just after I had got signed off to work as a solo medic here, probably 2017 or 2018. I was here with Chris and our former pilot. We got a call up in Annandale. And I remember we got overhead Annandale, and the ground resources were able to drive to him. So we were doing some orbits, and they said, hey, no helicopter rescue. You guys can cancel. And as soon as they said that, a page came through from Marin County Fire's dispatch that said they had a water rescue as well. There was a kayaker overturned in the Tamales Bay, much similar spot, just a little bit further south from where Nigel had his first. So we were overhead in Annandale. So from Annandale to Tamales is probably, a 6, 7, 8 minute flight, maybe at max. The cool thing about us is we're all self-sustained. So once we take off, we have all our gear. So the rescue medics, we keep our gear in the back of the helicopter. So we were overhead Annandale. The call came in. I immediately started undressing in the back of the helicopter and putting my wetsuit on. And by the time we got overhead at Tamales, we had eyes on a kayaker. It appeared like maybe his plugs weren't put in his kayak because his kayak was sinking and he was just kind of clinging to the kayak, getting taken out by the current. We did a couple orbits, landed in a parking lot. Chris set up the ropes while I was finishing getting dressed, and just by the time he was done with the ropes, I clipped in and they long lined me out. We grabbed the kayaker and brought him safely back to the parking lot that we had originally used, transferred him over to the fire department and the paramedics that were on the ambulance. And that was about it. It was probably all said and done from the time we got dispatched to the time we were cleared was maybe 15 or 20 minutes.
Wow, that's really good. And actually, you know what? I'm gonna piggyback off that because we actually just went out this morning before we went on to do this recording, and you guys were like, "Hey, just jump on the line, check this out." And next thing I know, I'm hanging underneath the helicopter in like jeans and a sweater, and I'm like, "What the heck is going on here? This is amazing!" But you guys, the setup that you guys have is absolutely incredible. I can't wait to kind of show it off a little later, but. Yeah, 15 minutes to get all that done. Amazing. Well done, sir. Well done.
It was a really quick response time and then quick call and even quick turnaround getting back to the hangar here.
Wow. Man, that's incredible.
And Jamal downplays it. Jamal's a complete stud in the water, to say the least. So,
Yep.
Let's go, buddy. All right. We're going to go swimming together. Let's go, dude.
Yeah, dude, you're going to ditch me. Don't make me look bad.
Dude, I'm just trying to keep up nowadays. What are you talking about?
You got the long reach.
Yeah, maybe. I might have the reach. That's about all I have, though. Dude, nice job, fellas. Thanks for sharing your first rescue here with Henry 1. That's awesome. We're going to divert real quick to thank our sponsors.
Bell is proud to sponsor Vertical Helicasts and their vision to hold meaningful mission, safety, and best practice conversations in the helicopter industry. The lessons learned from these conversations will undoubtedly shape the future of both new and veteran helicopter operators.
What I'd like to do is I have a couple articles here that I want to go over, and what's cool about this is that you guys have kind of specifically been set up with this. So We have Nigel, you're the pilot, I think, on every one of these missions that we're about to go over. So we have our pilot, ladies and gentlemen. But the rescuemen got changed up a little bit depending on who was on call at that moment in time. So, but the first one we're going to go over, this is on NBC News. And this is what it says. Video shows dramatic rescue of a hiker clinging to the side of the California cliff as ocean rises below. The helicopter thermal imaging camera captured a man desperately hanging on a gravel rock face after a steep cliffside drop in Golden Gate National Recreation Area. The dramatic helicopter rescue of a man who clung to a Northern California cliffside after having fallen off the trail in Golden Gate National Recreation Area was caught on video released by Sonoma County Sheriff's Office.
Some dramatic video of a seaside cliff rescue this weekend in Sonoma County, California. A Sheriff's Department helicopter used thermal imaging, spotted a hiker who'd fallen off a trail Sunday in the Golden Gate National Recreation Area. He was clinging desperately to the face of the rock while the ocean waves below him were starting to rise with the tide. The victim was placed in a rescue device, quickly airlifted to the top of the cliff. He was examined there by the fire department, paramedics. He had some scrapes and bruises, but they said otherwise, he was just fine. Wow.
Gentlemen, that was Nigel and Larry that did that rescue. What? Guy hanging, like, okay, so again, everybody needs to understand the cliff sides out here in Northern California are ridiculous and they are steep. There's a long way down to the bottom to the rock area, and you guys get called this quite often. What was this one?
Yeah, so it was down in Marin County again, so we get requested down there quite a bit, and so it was actually Easter Sunday, and we kind of always joke that Sundays are like rescue day because we get, for some reason, we get a lot of night rescues on Sundays. So we got called down there, and when we got overhead, I found him on the thermal camera, the thermal imager, and right off the bat, Nigel and I both looked at each other and we're like, this is a legit one. A lot of the cliff rescues we do, people will get stuck on like a little outcropping, and it's not really so much life or death, but this one was like, wow, he is Spider-Man clinging onto this cliff. So right off the bat, we started talking. We're like, hey, we need to take this one slow. So there was a little bit of pre-planning before we did it. But we landed nearby, set up the long line, and Nigel flew me in. He could talk about all the night stuff too, which is a little, unique as to how we do things. So
you're real quick.
Yep.
You're hanging from a long line.
Yep.
At night.
Yeah.
With a pilot under night vision goggles.
Nope.
Not on night vision goggles.
Nope.
Holy shit, I'm in. Let's go. Nigel, what is, wow.
So we wear the night vision goggles to get into the area, and they complement the FLIR camera for seeing the guy, and I got the searchlight. And then after we locate him, we go and set up. I take my goggles off because they have no depth perception. They have that limited field of view.
Yeah.
And being so sensitive to the light, they actually, when the searchlight's on, it's so bright, the goggles dim down. So take the goggles off. Larry's getting the line all set up. My door comes off, and we head back over to pick up Cody, was his name.
Yep. One
of the problems that we have on a cliff face is the rotor wash will hit the cliff face and come out.
Yeah. Goes down, the rotor wash hits cliff face and then pushes that draft out.
Yeah. So the other thing that we have is we have the rotor wash coming straight down, and we want to minimize that on the victim, particularly if they're clinging on, Spider-Man on and it's a little bit crumbly rock. We don't want to put any force down on them. Unfortunately, that time Larry had been going through a fitness regime and he dropped a bunch of weight, and that made it a bit more difficult to get him through the rotor wash. So
he was later.
So
is that what you're saying?
At that time he was. Obviously that's changed. But
so he went from totally jacked to just losing a little weight. I got you, Larry. I got you. All right.
So it's catch-22, right? Because I've got to push him through the rotor wash, but when he breaks through that rotor wash and gets onto the cliff, we don't want him knocking the victim off the cliff.
Agreed.
Okay, so we just took our time, and initially he came in from one side, and the rotor wash was just too severe, and couldn't Larry I couldn't get him through for fear of knocking the victim off the cliff. So I came back in the other side, and very quickly that kind of worked. And Larry got right next to him. The other thing that you have to do in those situations is not give too much slack in the line.
Oh yeah.
So if the victim does fall off the cliff, you don't want a 10-foot slack shock load.
Right.
And so, but I've got to give Larry enough slack to get the rescue equipment on, the horse collar device. And so it's a little bit of a balancing act. And in this instance, it took a little longer than normal for Larry to get it on just because of the predicament they were in. But he gave me the up signal after they were all done, and they came away from the cliff, and there was a sense of relief because it was one of the more tricky ones that I've done. And,
wow.
And of course the complexity at nighttime. So we have 2 belly lights on the helicopter that shine down the line.
Yep. And
then the searchlight I control by the coolie hat on the cyclic, and I put that up in front of me and use that as a hover reference.
Oh, nice.
The issue not the issue, but one of the factors that made it a little more difficult that night is I have the ebbing tide underneath the helicopter pushing in and out.
Yeah.
And that gives a false sense of movement.
Oh, yeah.
So as the tide comes in, it feels like, and I'm facing north up the coast, it feels like the helicopter is drifting left. So I have to discount the ocean and just look at the rocks.
Yeah.
And it's, so you just take your time, and it was a good one to get him back up to the top. Because I'm not, it would have been a very, very prolonged rope rescue for the guys on the ground. They had to hike in, was tricky where they would have been able to set up. He was, what do you say, about 50 feet from the top?
Yep, about 50 feet from the top, and
about the same from the ocean.
Yep.
And he may not have still been on the cliff by the time they got a line down to him.
Yep.
So,
I talked to him a couple days after, and he told me he was actually just getting ready to let go because he said he couldn't hold on any longer, and he heard the helicopter come in, so it gave him a little bit of hope. Like, I just need to hold on a little longer.
Yeah, buddy.
Yep.
Dang. All right. What piece of rescue gear did you use to pull him off the cliff?
Yeah, so we use a strap. We just call it the horse collar.
Yep.
But basically, we use that for any cliff rescue, swiftwater rescue, ocean rescue.
Yep.
Like Nigel was saying, the rotor wash on this one was holding me just off the cliff. So I could feel him trying to slide me into it, and I was just staying still. And, like when we do training, I can look up at the helicopter, and it can be closer to the cliff, and I just kind of stay where I'm at because I'm stuck in that little like air bubble. So
hold that thought.
Yep.
We got American Airlines taking off. See ya. Oh, that's cool. I really can't believe we're recording on an active runway right now. It's kind of exciting to me. I'm not gonna lie to you. All right. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So it took a lot longer than it normally would, and because we just had to take it so slow, and so eventually I could. The actual video is a lot longer. The one we post on social media, we can only post for, it only takes so long. So it looks like we did it a lot quicker than we did. But, there's a time when I keep reaching out to try and grab the cliff to try and stabilize it. As soon as I could do that, at one point he gets me close enough to where I'm able to stick my foot out and kind of grab on a little bit.
Yeah.
And as soon as I'm able to do that, he slides me right in behind him. Now I'm behind Cody. And the problem was I can't put my hands on him until I'm stable because I don't want to knock him off.
Right.
So I'm kind of sliding. So I'm down on my hands and knees, basically kind of around the back of him.
Yep.
And as soon as I felt like I was stable enough to where I wasn't going to start sliding, that's when I slowly started feeding the horse collar around him. And it's just like we train. I basically slid the horse collar kind of over his head and over his left hand, and I grabbed his left hand and put it back onto the rock to hold on. And then same thing, I slide it down a little bit more, grabbed his right hand, slid it through, put it back on the rock. And the whole time I'm yelling, don't let go. Because my fear is that he thinks, oh, I'm saved. I'm just going to, they got me.
Yeah.
So as soon as I got that around him, I give Nigel the up signal, and it's funny because I give him the up signal and I'm waiting. I'm not feeling anything. And I'm like, okay, I give the up signal again. And then, because my fear too is that where I had the horse collar, I couldn't really slide it down around his chest as far as we normally do because his chest is keeping friction on the cliff to keep him from sliding.
Yeah.
So as soon as I start to feel some tension come on the rope, I'm able to slide it down all the way. And then at the same time, grab his hands and lock his hands in so he can't slide out of it. But it was the biggest relief ever as soon as he pulls us from the rocks, and it was like, okay, we got him. So
Dang, guys.
yeah,
That's
it was a
awesome.
good one.
So I got a couple quick questions. First of all, you mentioned a couple times you take the door off. Nigel, explain why it's important. And so it's the right side pilot door, the front door, that you literally take off the hinges and you put it in the back. Is that right?
Correct.
So why do you do that?
So I can stick my head out.
So you're literally like sticking your head out and doing it's line of sight. What do they call that? It's for
Vertical reference.
Vertical
Yeah,
reference.
sorry. I'm not a pilot. Vertical reference for you to literally look down, straight down below us to see what you're doing and where these guys are at.
That's it.
Man, that's cool. That is cool. And then the other one that you had mentioned was, actually, it might have been you, Nigel, like talking about slack in the line. So my world, where I come from, is all hoist. Like this is a bit new to me. And I don't get me wrong, I've done long line, I've trained it, but you guys are doing it. And there's something to be said about cliff rescue on a long line, because Nigel, you're the one that's like coming up a little bit, down a little bit. Like you really have to hold that. Whereas me in the back, if I'm a hoist operator, I can adjust that based on what he needs, like what Larry would need. But you're doing it with the helicopter.
Yeah, but if you think about it, it's no different, because all I'm doing is the collective is my pendant switch.
That's all. Dude, I love it.
It's that simple.
Yeah,
It's just that
that's
simple.
simple.
Right.
Too much slack.
Yeah,
Little bit
right.
up. A little too tight. A little bit down. It's the same. It's the same as the control button on the pendant, on the hoist pendant.
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah, while you're moving the pedals too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
And talking on the radio.
And
Well, I think something interesting here is the fact that, a lot of the pilots we bring to Henry One are utility pilots, so they've only flown a long line.
Oh.
Something interesting with Nigel is Nigel in the New Zealand Air Force was a hoist pilot out of a Huey. That's what is. So, I mean, it's interesting, especially as a unit. Obviously, I have no experience with hoisting and only long line. And so to hear his perspective and kind of comparing and contrasting the two has been eye-opening for me, and kind of make, when I see other agencies doing hoisting, it's interesting to know kind of what they're doing. And so I hate to say it, it's like with him, it's kind of the best of both worlds, is that you've got his
Nice.
hoist background, but then he's doing, he's got utility experience too. So long story short, I don't want to make his head too big, but
you
he's
have to. That's the thing. You got to do that for
Oh,
pilots.
trust me, I know. Especially supervising them.
I'm just kidding.
So,
I'm just kidding. Nice smile.
Christmas trees.
Christmas.
You seen the guys slinging Christmas trees?
Oh yeah, you did that too.
That's how you learn to long line.
Oh, snap. That's good stuff.
And my name's Chris, so it just kind of, it just kind of works. So it's an easy transition for him.
And if MSA is listening, they might need to send us a bigger helmet.
But to make that transition from hoisting to long line, when you get out in the helicopter utility industry.
Yeah.
And, for me, it was doing a couple of seasons of Christmas trees where you're doing 1,000 picks a day. You pick it up or you don't.
Well, shoot,
So-
just flying with you today.
I think he's coming along. I think he's picking
I
it up.
think
So
you're
yeah,
all right. I
we're
think
doing
you're all
okay.
right. Yeah. I was actually like legitimately underneath the aircraft. I'm like, wow, that's really good.
That's the whole idea.
Oh, it's fantastic, man. Guys, thank you so much for sharing that story. That's amazing. I'm going to cruise to the next one.
What about what Larry's quote was? At the end of
Oh
that
man.
That was just as famous as the rescue.
Yeah, so I was quoted in a bunch of news agencies for as soon as we pulled off the cliff to try and kind of like I did with that lady, just to try and calm his nerves a little bit. I said, "Hey man, it's all right. I got you, brother." And of course, it it got quoted and kind of blown up.
And the
So-
nice thing with deputy sheriffs
Yeah.
is they never give each other a hard time.
no,
of
So
course
within a
not.
week, there was a
Sign above my
above
desk.
his desk that some deputy on patrol had made that said, "I got you, brother," with our
Aw.
star and wings on it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Is that like the hand heart? Oh,
Yep.
buddy.
totally.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Thanks, Jamal.
Hey, you're welcome.
Well done.
It completes the story.
It does complete the story. I thank you for that. I appreciate that. You can drop that in there. Thanks for leaving it out, Larry.
Yeah, well,
Jeez, oh man. Big part of the story. Just
Yep.
saying. Oh, that's great. We're going to divert real quick to thank our sponsors.
Switlick. No mission is the same. Why should your suit be? Introducing a new custom dry suit experience. Choose your fabric, colors, neck and wrist seals. zippers, pockets, collars, and so much more. Intelligent measuring prompts ensure the most tailored fit. Brought to you by Switlick Survival Products. For more information, visit us at www.switlick.com.
All right, I'm going to come to the next one. So the next one, again, Nigel and Chris, you guys were on this one. This is in the Press Democrat. 3 mountain bikers rescued in unrelated incidents within a day at, I'm going to call it Annandale State Park, because that's what everybody knows it around here. So Annandale State Park. A flight officer of Sonoma County Sheriff's Office, Henry 1 Helicopter, said this spring has been unlike any he's seen in the last 8 years of flying with the agency. Sonoma County crews rescued 3 mountain bikers in an unrelated incident over 24 hours this week in Annandale State Park amid an already busy spring season. Sergeant Chris Haas, a flight officer with the Sonoma County Sheriff's Department, Henry 1 Helicopter, said this spring is unlike any he's seen in the last 8 years of flying with the agency. This spring, rescues have really picked up, Haas said. I think people are just getting back out. The last 4 years have been off the wall due to COVID, and people have established a new normal. Okay, multiple mountain bike, 3 mountain bike rescues, like back to back to back?
Yeah, so what was unique about it was just the fact that we would, we're pretty, that's a pretty target-rich environment up there. There's a lot of, it's a popular spot for mountain biking. The fact that it's literally in the middle of the city of Santa Rosa, but it's a state park with all single track, super rocky trails. So it does lend itself to injuring people. And so, yeah, we finished up a rescue. Guy ended up actually having a collapsed lung.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. Like center punched a tree on a trail.
Oh, my gosh.
Yep. So
that was the first one.
That was the first one.
Oh, geez.
And then brought him to the ambulance. And then literally as I was like getting him into the back of this ambulance, the incident commander who was at the same LZ goes, dude, you got another one. And I was like no, there's no one else with him. He's like, no, there's like a completely unrelated one further into the park. So it was like, so literally I like radioed to Nigel and I was like, we got another one. But, and the way we kind of do business is, it's not as simple as me just getting back on the line and like going and like, cause especially like in that park, typically guys, maybe they'll be off trail. The trails are, yes, they're marked, but they're not necessarily like, there's no milepost markers or so.
Yeah.
It requires like a search before you actually locate the person. So we essentially had to he packed up the line for me. I jumped back in the helicopter, and then we went and basically just redid the call from the first time.
Oh my gosh.
And this guy was, if I thought the first guy was screwed up, this guy had, he had crashed and he had taken out a majority of the lower part of his face. So there were some airway issues. He had some other stuff going on. I'll keep it pretty PG. He had a lot going on. So so same thing, we brought him to the ambulance and he got transferred. And that's what we do a lot of the time is that we, yes, we can configure for a medevac, but especially like an Annandale call, you got to think when we're converting the aircraft, it takes a couple minutes to get ropes put away. It takes a couple minutes to convert to our medevac interior. So a lot of the times, you look at Memorial Hospital, which is our trauma center that's in Santa Rosa, that's like a 5-minute drive. So like for a call like that, it's like, truthfully, even if they're super critical, it's you're kind of in the interest of patient care, throw them in an ambulance, just go to the hospital, know? And so, yeah. And then the following day, kind of first thing, I think when we went into service, a guy was going down a trail that's a pretty technical, steep trail. Really, I don't want to judge. And I ride up there. I'm a pretty avid mountain bike rider. Right. I ride a lot. So he was on a trail that takes a lot of skill to be on. I'll just say his bike had a basket on it. So I'll just with no suspension. And so
hold my beer, watch this.
Yeah. And he just decided to take it over the handlebars and he screwed himself up pretty badly as well.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, just kind of unique, I don't think for Nigel and I, they weren't super technical. It was just the fact that we were just getting multiple rescues in the same park. And then, even on that same call, it was kind of crazy. So
that is crazy.
Yeah.
The most technical part was on the first day, I was outside the helicopter packing up the 200-foot line. So where the ambulance was, you can't land in there. So Chris and the patients on the 200-foot line, I deliver them to the back of the ambulance. They disconnect from the line, and then I went and landed in this little field down the street. And I'm picking up the line, and of course the radios are blowing up, and I'm not on the radio. I'm outside the helicopter. So I get back in, and everyone's trying to reach me, but at least the line's packed up now.
Yeah.
And so they actually, and I can't land back where the ambulance is. So Chris got delivered to the helicopter by a fire vehicle, hopped in. Then we went off to find the other guy, and he was across the other side of the park. You don't want to be flying around with a 200-foot line on looking for someone.
No, definitely not.
So it worked out. It worked out all right. But
that's funny.
And I kind of have this thing. Nigel's giving me a hard time before. One of the cool things about being a cop is that we can commandeer cars. And so, yes, it was I don't know how many cars out on the coast. I showed up one time after a rescue where I got dropped off. And I wanted to get back to the helicopter, and it just was taking forever with the fire guy. So some guy, remember that guy in the Prius that dropped me off? And
my gosh!
I mean,
sir, I need a commandeer. Actually, can I just get a ride?
Yeah, exactly.
If I stick my thumb out, can I hitchhike back over there?
Exactly. So yeah, for some reason that kind of floats my boat. So yeah,
that's kind of funny. I don't know if I've ever had anybody on here that says they commandeered a car to get back to the helicopter. I'm just saying, you might be the first.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Two. We've done it too.
I'm training everybody to, it's like, if you can do it, let's do it. So.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. You know what? I would give you a ride. I'd hook you up.
Thank you, dude.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But it does bring up an interesting point compared to hoisting with the long liners, because we can't retract it back into the helicopter. The plus side of that is delivering them to an ambulance. The ambulance doesn't need to be where LZ is.
Right. No. Yeah, they can be wherever the heck you want.
Yeah, and the guys just disconnect, and then I go and find a spot to land, and we figure out how to get back together later.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because when I'm hoisting, I'm bringing them all the way up to the cabin, and.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't really like hoisting them back out. It's not what I want to do.
No, it kind of goes against all the principles.
Exactly.
Right?
So you just find a good place to land, whereas you can just short haul them right over to wherever you want to go. Oh, yeah, just stay right there. I'll be right there, and fly right over to them.
Yeah, but I think that, and I'll say my eyes have kind of opened a little wider, especially we have a relationship here with the Highway Patrol who hoist. And, obviously with Nigel's background is you do realize, there's no perfect method for anything. So, there are advantages to what we do. And so, yes, we'll exploit those advantages. But I can go into depth of times where it's been shit, man, I wish we just had a hoist. This would be a lot easier, So it's I don't know. We do what we do. So
you mean every night rescue in
exactly.
Lake County?
Exactly. Yeah, we had a night rescue up in Lake County that it was just if only we had a hoist, because this thing is becoming a big convoluted. Because with long line, you have to find an LZ somewhat close to your victim,
right?
And so when you're on a 4,000-foot ridge top in the middle of scrub brush that's all been recently burned, and now you're trying to find this an LZ to set up when you could just deploy your hoist and get this guy out.
Yeah.
It's well, this is a pain in the ass. I really wish we just had a hoist right now. So, yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I absolutely get it. You know what? Actually, it brings me up to a question. We talked about it earlier. Have you guys ever thought about doing rappel out of the aircraft too? Is that something that you've looked at all? Not really?
No.
It's and I asked that because I've been to the agency, and I know we talked about it a little bit earlier offline, but just ideas. Like you said, real quick, you said there's multiple ways to do this. And there are so many ways to do this. What's the right way? Well, what's the best way? Well, it depends on your agency and what you're allowed to do.
I think for us, for us personally as an agency with this aircraft, we only have one. So with this aircraft that we have, non-sliding doors and the time it would take to be removing doors to put rappel out. I think what we do in lieu of rappelling, if that makes sense, is we do train quite a bit, and actually we employ it quite a bit, is... I'll use the Anadel rescues. Actually, I think the first one did exactly what I'm going to describe. So we'll find an LZ somewhat close to our patient. So, we're overhead. Okay, we locate our patient, and then there seems to be a clearing 500 yards away from them, 100 yards away, and we'll do a hover offload, a skid on, a tow in, some way to deploy either myself or a medic, start patient care, and then have the pilot send us in the line. And so there's different ways we'll do that. If we have a paramedic, kind of simplifies the process. We literally offload our paramedic with their first in bag, and they go establish treatment, and then I'll get a size up of what they've got, and then fly in with the equipment we need to extract them. If I'm operating as a crew of 2 without a paramedic, we can do the exact same thing, but now the pilot needs to jump out and send me the stuff that I need. So
Got it. Okay.
that's kind of the way our work around here. And again, it's just kind of what we do here.
Hey, that's awesome. I
Yep.
mean, you guys, well, everything you're doing is working, so well done.
and every call's different, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So we had a call, not to get off track from the ones that you got down, but we had a call.
No way, keep going.
We
I
had
love
a,
this.
we had a call in one of the local parks where a woman had taken a fall and essentially ripped her nose off her face. So
oh, my gosh.
It was bad.
So
it was
she's
really bad.
she's lying face down, and big pool of blood around her, and there is nowhere to land. That area had got burned in one of the many fires that we've had recently, and I was able to get the aircraft down and put the tail in a little keyhole close enough to the ground where we had a medic, plus we had a trainee medic, and they hover jumped off the helicopter to do patient care, and then we had to fly probably about half a mile away to the nearest LZ, and then Chris and I set up the line together, waited for the paramedics to tell us what gear they needed, and then we flew that back in on the line. They packaged her up real quick. We flew her out, and then we actually ended up transporting her to the hospital because it was a little bit more remote, the park that she was in.
Wow.
So every call is different, and
I think to your point, we try to be dynamic thinkers here. So like that was a unique situation. We have 2 paramedics on board. I don't think I've mentioned all the flight officers were EMTs. So
Nice.
we obviously
That was going to be one of my questions.
Yeah. So and that was a situation where usually it would be okay. I'm going to need to fly that equipment in to help my medic with packaging, patient care. Well, it's like, well, shit, I've got 2 paramedics there. They don't need a third guy. How can I be most useful? So it was set the lineup, get the gear they need. There's obviously a little bit of downtime in the sense of, we were able to get them there so quickly. They've got some significant airway and treatment issues they need to do. So that was one of those ones where it's like, well, I'm really going to be no help if I just go in with the gear. Like there's 2 of them there. They can get, they're paramedics, but they can figure it out.
Yeah.
And so, I figured.
Just a quick little zinger.
Yeah, I just had to.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Just drop that in there.
But it was like, what can I do in the meantime to expedite? Because I knew with her injuries, we were going to have to fly her. And where we were, the place we were located, it was like, we're going to need to fly her. And so it was like, okay, in the downtime, I'm going to have Nigel land. I'm going to convert for transport to kind of eliminate that issue I was talking about of now having to have her wait around. So, they literally, Nigel brought the gear in. They packaged her, brought her back to the LZ I was at. We literally loaded her in the helicopter. We just dumped the gear because there's only so many seats in a 407 when you're transporting someone. So one of us was going to be stuck behind. It's like, well, it's good for the 2 paramedics to be treating this lady on the way to the hospital. So I literally just hung back with the gear, packaged it all up, and they went to the hospital, came back about 20 minutes later, picked me up, and then we all left together. So it's a good example though.
Wow. That is good stuff, man. Again, I love side stories.
We're good. I'm good at doing that.
I'm all about it, dude. Now just let it ride, okay? Okay, awesome. I know. I appreciate you guys sharing that one too. All right, so let's get to another one now. You guys had an interesting one. This is on KRON4. One person found dead on crashed fishing boat at Point Reyes. A person was found dead in a crashed fishing boat found by Sonoma County Sheriff's Office Helicopter Unit Henry 1 on Thursday. Around 4:30 p.m., Henry 1 responded to calls of a boat crashed on the rock shoreline near Chimney Rock at Point Reyes. A rescue swimmer from the U.S. Coast Guard was deployed and located a person in the boat. However, the swimmer was unable to access the cabin without breaching equipment, the sheriff's office said. The Henry 1 crew then retrieved the paramedic from the Marin County Fire Department and was taken with a 100-foot long-line rescue, video attached here. According to the sheriff's office, the boat was resting on the rocks and being battered by incoming waves, causing it to list to the side. Dang. All right, Jamal, what's up, dude? What happened with that? So the Coast Guard responds, they get down, swimmer can't get in the boat, and poof, you get called.
Yeah, so I was actually on duty at Marin County Fire that day, and we got a call for a vessel in distress, possibly into the rocks, unknown, occupied or unoccupied. It was right at crab season, so during commercial crab season, we do get quite a fair amount of calls for vessels in distress. Just they get lines tied in their props, or they have motor issues or whatever. So we, as the fire department, send a full water rescue response, which for us consists of a couple of engines that will take jet skis and kind of a pre-deployed model that we have for water calls, whether it's in a bay or on the coast. Our guys got there first, and some pretty savvy watermen assessed it and said, hey, like, we're not getting skis in there. It's too rocky. The swell was probably 6 to 8 feet, enough where it makes operating a ski in the surf pretty technical. So they felt that they weren't going to be able to get in there. The Coast Guard helicopter had came in, said, yeah, we think we see somebody in there, but we can't get in. And then another helicopter rescue unit had came in and said, hey, we think this is a Henry 1 specific long line mission for this. So I was on duty, ended up at the Point Reyes station on a move up and cover. I heard these guys got requested, and I called Larry and I said, hey, this sounds like a gnarly one. Do you want a second person? And he said, yeah, 100%.
Nice.
I'm driving in right now. The other pilot's going to meet me at the hangar. I'll grab your harness. So they loaded up. I had my water gear and the fire engine with me, so I put on a wetsuit, walked next door to where the field was, which we set up an LZ there.
Asked them to bring breaching tools.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for breaching tools.
We can't get in.
Can't get
We
in.
got that.
Yeah,
Coast Guard boys
so
can't get in, which I no, I'm not going to say it. Not going to say it. Not going to say it. As a fellow Coast Guard swimmer over here. Yeah. Okay.
So Larry said, hey, grab some breaching equipment. So I grabbed, in the fire department, called a marriage. It's just a flathead axe paired up with a Halligan. And walked to the field next door, climbed in with these guys, and after probably, 3 or 4 minute flight, we located the boat, did a couple of orbits, came up with a plan, set down, set up for the long line. Their plan was to long line myself and Larry in with the breaching equipment, and the pilot put us basically like right on the bow of the boat. It was listed pretty hard to the right, probably, I don't know what, Larry, 3 to 5 feet maybe off the rock. So it wasn't actually touching the rock. So as the swell would hit the boat, it would list the boat even further. And the only thing that kept it from going over was the actual rocks that it was hitting into.
Wow.
Yeah. So Larry and I peeked through the window, said, yep, there is a guy in there. And we always assume everybody's a victim until proven differently. So
Agreed.
we figured we had to get in, and we had to at least make patient contact and confirm this was a 1055 before.
A 1055?
Deceased subject.
Got it. Okay. Got to help me out. I don't know all these acronyms and the numbers.
It's the only 10 code I know.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He was trying to impress you, and obviously fell flat on
I
his
was
face.
like,
It's the only
hey,
10 code I know.
The only one I know is 5150. What's up?
I know that one
Let's
too, yeah. I know that one because it makes extra paperwork for us. Yep.
Okay.
So, yeah, Larry and I got on basically the bow of the boat, unclipped, and kind of the only way for us to really get there was to kind of climb along the left side of this boat, the port side of the boat, and get onto the back end of the boat. So we kind of shimmied our way over, holding on to windows and kind of rails. It was a crabbing boat, so it did have a bunch of outriggers out that we were able to grab onto, and the crab lines, kind of used those to kind of wiggle our way to the back side of the boat, and then kind of had to slide down the back deck of the boat. Yep. We found that there was a door on the back that we were able to get access into patients, so we ended up not having to breach him, but just due to the way that the boat was listed, he was wedged in pretty hard amongst the floor and the right side of the cab of the boat. Yep. I was able to kind of get into the cab itself, and he was, what, Larry, 300 pounds probably? He was
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was
probably
he was a big
6'8", just a huge guy.
You know, and kind of going back to like what Chris and Nigel were saying about how all our rescues are very dynamic. We did something on this rescue that we wouldn't normally do. So normally we're doing an ocean rescue. We're in full wetsuits, no vest, no helmet. But I just felt like this one, and also right before we were flown down to the boat, we were told that they got info there might be 2 people on board.
Oh.
So we brought extra rescue equipment. But I elected to wear my vest with my radio and my helmet so I could have communications with the pilot. And I'm glad we did, because we weren't able to physically get the victim out from the cab of the boat. So we actually had to call in the helicopter to help us with the rope to help pull us out. or help pull him out with us.
Wait, you used the long line rope of the helicopter
Yep.
to help him to get him out of the boat?
To get him out of the cab onto the deck so we could actually
Damn.
package him into the rescue stuff. So again, very dynamic. I wouldn't normally wear my vest. I wouldn't normally wear my helmet in a maritime environment.
Yeah.
But it was like, I need to be able to talk to the pilot.
Wow.
And yeah, so.
Yeah, that ended up being a pretty big factor because we were really able to get the rescue strap, maneuver it enough to get it under his arms. And then Larry was able to relay to the pilot, like, hey, we do need some help getting him up over the threshold of the cab. And he was able to manipulate the helicopter enough to lift him up. And then the both of us were able to lift his hips and get him up over the threshold out of the cab and onto the back deck.
That is awesome. You know, it's probably a couple of people that are thinking like, oh my God, that's kind of crazy. It's not that bad because you by utilizing the helicopter in that long line, if there was any snag or anything like that, literally punch the line and it's a release.
Yep.
And the line gets dropped. So, wow.
It was some good flying. There was a lot of snags to be had.
Yeah.
And, again, our pilots are awesome. He was able to put it right between all of the outriggers and everything and got it, right into my hand. And we were able to get him out. And then as soon as we got him out, pilot flew off with the line. We were able to actually package him in a more secure rescue device.
Yeah.
And then called him back in. He came in and grabbed all three of us and flew us out.
Wow. That's some ingenuity right there.
Yeah.
Well done.
But it took us about a good 40 minutes to get him.
It was quite a while.
We were on there for a while, and the boat, every time the wave was hitting it, that boat was rocking.
So when the police and the firefighters work together, boom! I'm just saying.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
And there was the report of 2, so we did have to go confirm that there was nobody else on there. So we had to go crawl through the bow of the boat.
I made the firefighter do that.
Standard. But we had to go.
What's the shittiest part of the job? Oh, the medic's going to do that. Okay,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to stage at the door.
Yeah.
I'll protect you.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll make sure nobody breaches anymore.
Yeah.
It was nice to have a lookout. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you very much for that.
Though, but it just goes to show, we're all on the same page. If he already knew what was going on, so he's calling me right off the bat saying, hey, can I help you? And it's like, yeah. And thank God that he was there. There's no way I could have done that by myself. Zero chance.
Man, that's incredible. Hey, nice job, you guys. I'm sorry he was found dead. That's never fun, but for you guys to get in there and get him out, well done.
But it goes to show. I got a letter from one of the family members a week later thanking us for being able to recover him, to give them some closure.
So after our recording, Larry was able to share the letter with me so that I could read it here. And this is what it says. Dear crew members, I am writing to thank you for your assistance in the recovery of our son, Matthew, who was the owner of the fishing vessel Westerly. We were notified around 1 a.m. March 28th by Coast Guard that the boat was aground on Point Reyes seashore. They could not confirm Matt was on board at the time. It was our longest day waiting to know where he was. Your brave actions to board the boat and recover him for us ended hours of waiting. It was terrible news for us, but also a relief to have a clear answer. Thank you for your service. Sincerely, George and Helen Paul. Oh, it's one of my favorites.
Makes it all worth it.
Yeah. I love getting that from the family members and stuff. It's just, it means so much. The news article is awesome. Hey, thanks for highlighting what we did, but that really hits home.
Yep.
That's cool. Nice job, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Done. Thank you. Well done. We're going to divert real quick to thank our sponsors.
Axnis. The Axnis PNG wireless ICS system delivers cutting-edge wireless ICS technology to any aircraft as a fully integrated system or as a carry-on, carry-off mobile base station. The PNG wireless system is the right solution for any mission.
All right, I'm going to go to 2 more here. So we've got Nigel and Larry were on this one. Larry, you're on a lot of these, man. I thought Nigel was on a lot. You're on a lot of these too.
That's what happens when you're the full-time TFO. So
And
I generally,
I don't have to fly.
He
as much
doesn't like
anymore,
working
so.
weekends, so
Yeah,
I end up with a lot of the good calls.
I treat Larry like a firefighter.
That's why Larry and I get along so well.
Yep.
Oh, excellent, excellent. All right, so this one is on the website of Road and Track. So the headline, driver plunges off Highway 1 cliff rescued by helicopter. The rescue took over an hour after the driver plunged hundreds of feet of the Sonoma County cliff. Sonoma County car enthusiasts are uniquely blessed with miles of canyon carving pavement at their disposal in California. Highway 1 is one of the Golden State's most iconic examples. Following the coastline from Mendocino County to Orange County, the two-lane highway is home to inviting curves and dropping cliffs alike, as one driver unfortunately found out over the weekend.
Yeah.
Over the weekend. I'm going to emphasize that
Yep.
one. I got you.
I was
Larry.
working the weekend.
I was probably mountain bike up in Annandale. So
So, oh my gosh, what happened?
Well, we had actually, we were actually on callback at that point. We actually hadn't started, we weren't on duty at that time. And we got a phone call of a cliff rescue vehicle over the cliff in that area. And it's very convoluted, but eventually we figured out where it was. So when he had crashed, his cell phone was connected to his like OnStar or his Ford.
Okay.
So his truck had actually sent the alert. Well, it had also called from his cell phone, so they could hear somebody in pain, is what they described it, and they could hear like the turn signal still going on. So they knew that there was an actual collision, but it had shown the location of the cell tower.
Yeah.
So initially, all the resources went to the cell tower, and they couldn't find anybody. They were eventually able to kind of pinpoint some lat long, and so as we had responded here to the hangar. And launched from here, we had then learned, it's actually on Highway 1 in this area. State Parks Ranger was in the area who actually launched a drone and found the vehicle. So we knew, okay, we're in the right area. We got overhead. And that day I was not blessed with having a medic because I don't think they like working the weekends. So it was just Nigel and I. And so we got overhead and saw the vehicle right off the bat. You know, the vehicle was down quite a ways. And I was like, I want a paramedic for this. So we had actually, one of the ambulances that we work with quite often out there, Medic 120 from Coast Life Support District, they were on scene, and actually a paramedic that I've done several calls with before. So as soon as I saw her, I'm like, Tina, you're coming with me.
Nice.
So we shut down Highway 1, landed right on Highway 1, grabbed the paramedic, and Nigel flew us in. And unbeknownst to us, when we got down to the vehicle, there was nobody in it. So now it was kind of like oh crap, where is this person? We know somebody was there because they heard somebody breathing heavily on the 911 call. So now it's search mode. So, and I'll let Nigel talk about, he started conducting a search.
So the windscreen of the truck had been impacted inwards, not outwards. So it was unlikely the person had been ejected and was in the bushes somewhere right by the truck.
Yeah.
So we quickly figured out that got out and wandered off somewhere. And it's so steep, there's no way they're making it back up to the road. It's really tall grass, probably 4 or 5 foot high tufts of tussocky grass on this very steep hillside. And at the bottom of the hillside is about 100-foot sheer cliff down to the ocean. And so somewhere on this hillside is this driver. And so I went back up to the highway, punched the line off so I didn't have the line on. Larry and the medic are looking around the vehicle, and I'm just doing a contour search. So I'm just flying, every contour, come down a little bit, come back. And I'm at about, 20 feet, really trying to look into the hill to try and find this person. And time goes by and nothing. We can't find anything. Our partners at Reach had landed on a pullout nearby. So once we located the person, we could get them, to an EMS helicopter. And then we were kind of stuck, and we were like, well, what do we do next? So I said to Larry, why don't you jump on the line and I'll fly you around on the line, and, I can get you a little closer to the face.
Put me into all the crevices.
And just be looking.
Awesome.
So I start, and then we come off the cliff face, and we're sitting out over the ocean. He's on the line. He's 100 feet below me, and we're just looking at the cliff face, and we're talking to each other. And we're like, okay, so there's the car. You come down that ridge line, and then you're not going to get across here, and that's too steep, and you could cut across there. And we came to the conclusion that there was only one place that they could have gone, straight down from the truck. So I fly Larry back into this little trough, little depression in the hill right below the truck. And within about 20 feet of the 100-foot cliff edge, Larry goes, I got him. And I go, whereabouts? He goes, it's right underneath me. And I go, can you point? And Larry points. And so from 100 feet up, I couldn't see the guy.
Holy smoke.
And he was laying down and was kind of covered by the grass and had clothes that were similar color and just blended right in.
He blended right in.
And it was a lucky find. So anyway, very quickly from then, within 3 or 4 minutes, we've got him. Larry's got him packaged up, and we flew him back up to the highway and transported him to the hospital.
When you guys were, Larry, when you were on the line, and was it just you on that second? So where was the medic?
So Nigel came and picked both of us up and flew us back up to the road. We dropped the medic off up at the road. And then, I also want to give a shout out to the fire guys. So while we're simultaneously doing that, they were setting up a rope system and actually had rappelled down too. So not only are we searching, we've got several firefighters that are actually searching the hillside on what we could walk on as well. So there was a team effort. It just so happened that, again, every rescue is different. It's very dynamic. We've never done a search on the bottom of the line, but the way the terrain was, it just made sense. And he goes, hey, I got an idea. How about I just put you on the line and I'll fly into all these crevices? And I was like, well, we got nothing else going on, so we might as well.
Yeah.
And I had noticed looking down from the car, there was a part of the dirt on kind of one of the ridges that looked like a deer trail, like it was disturbed, like something had slid down it. And I remember following that down, and I followed it a little bit further down. All I saw was a guy's hand. He was wearing,
Holy smoke.
For those who hunt, First Light camouflage, and it worked very well because all I could see was his hand sticking out of the brush. And it was like, and I direct Nigel, I'm like, he's right here. And he flies in and he's like, well, I'm guessing he's right there. So we, again, we went and grabbed the medic real quick, which only took about an extra 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And he flew myself and the medic in, and we packaged him up. And, the guy was suffering from some, cold exposure. It actually seemed like he'd been out there a lot longer than we had thought. And the car, while we were on scene, the battery died, and the engine was cold. So we think what had happened was it was so foggy that he had crashed sometime during the night, and the cell phone finally got enough signal once the fog cleared to get the call out.
Yeah,
so he'd actually been there for a long time.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he was only about 10 to 15 feet from, if he had gone any further, he was going to go right off that drop down to the beach and the rocks and ocean. So he was so confused. He didn't know where he was at. So we're just lucky that he stopped where he did, or he would have kept going.
Oh my gosh, you guys.
And we know it was foggy because it was clearing just when we first got there. So you actually had to get in under the marine layer to get in there the first time. It was right at the point of dissipating, and dissipated pretty quick. But then when you think back, you're like, okay, it was pretty foggy, and given the early time of the call, it was probably dark. So fog, dark, windy road.
He just couldn't see the road or whatever.
Maybe.
And wow. And that's pure speculation, so I'll throw that out there. But you guys get on scene, and wow, that's amazing, you guys.
So that one took about an hour. It was about an hour by the time we got on scene to when we actually found him and got him delivered to Reach. So yeah, it was a long one.
Holy smoke.
Yeah. But the actual rescue component was maybe 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what? That's incredible.
Larry was saying that he put the patient in what we call a halfback, which is just kind of like a C-spine device that we can long line on.
Okay.
And I think what he's downplaying is how challenging it can be to package a patient on a hillside in the brush with, you can call it a time crunch. This guy had been there for a while and needs to get further care. Even though you have a paramedic with him, they need to get to an ambulance. They need to get to a trauma center. So I think he's underestimating that part or understating that part.
We had flown in. What we'll normally do for C-spine patients is we'll fly in 2 different rescue devices, a traverse stretcher and a halfback. And so we'll package them in both. So they're laying down on their back in the C-spine of the halfback, but basically on a soft stretcher. So we had flown both those in, but where we were at, kind of in this steep ravine, there was no way we're going to be able to get him into the rescue stretcher. So, we train it all the time. And so we put him right into the halfback, which has the C-spine, protects his back and neck.
Yeah.
And then we flew him out directly on that because there was no way we were going to be able to get him onto the stretcher as well, just simply where we were due to the terrain. So,
dang, that's awesome, you guys. Did you do any follow-up?
So I found out he ended up surviving. I hadn't talked to him to figure out exactly what had happened, but it was, again, we look at that one, we were getting ready to call out search and rescue. We were trying everything we could. We were trying to, have our dispatch ping the cell phone to try and give us a lat and long. Well, it turns out the cell phone, I think, was actually up at the car. So we would have gotten the location of the car, but not him. So it just lucked out. Again, thinking outside of the box. That's what's really cool about our program is we're allowed to, while we do things a certain way, most of the time, we're given the latitude to make those decisions on our own. Like, hey, we've never searched on the long line, but let's do it. It makes sense. And it paid off in this instance. So,
and another part of that rescue was, well, did he make it down onto the beach and go north or south
and just
on
walk
the beach
away
and walk away?
Yeah.
And it's a very, very isolated beach. You're not really no one ever makes it to that beach just for going to that beach. So part of my search was doing a track along the beach, which is not very big, one pass looking for footprints. And there was rabbit prints and deer prints and bird prints and everything else, but no footprints. But we had to, that was one box that we had to tick and then rule out.
Yeah. The rule out that, okay, they are not there. We've checked that.
Yep,
and
they're somewhere on the hillside.
Yeah. Wow, guys. Holy cow. Dude, I love it. And Nigel, you said it. I say it all the time, too. You never know what you're going to get.
You don't.
That's why I love this job.
Exactly.
It's
the best part of this job, man. It's just, it's every day's an adventure, to say the least.
No doubt. Oh, man. Thank you guys for sharing that story. I appreciate it. With a save and a guy that walks away. Man, that's incredible. Nice job. All right. I got one more. And this one's going to be, let's see, Nigel. Hey, Chris. What? Nigel's got another one? Come on.
That's weird that we'd all happen to be sitting here and they all are rescues that we did. So.
All right. So this one is in the, patch.com. 5 rescued from Russian River by Sonoma Sheriff helicopter crew. A family of 4 was inner tubing and got stuck. A Good Samaritan who tried to help also got stuck. Sonoma County, California. 5 people had been rescued Tuesday. Just another Tuesday. Come on, man. I get it. Is that right?
Any given Tuesday.
Oh, any given Tuesday.
And actually, those Antidote rescues we were talking about, the 2 that occurred on the same day, that was on a Tuesday.
Any given Tuesday. I like it. From the rushing currents of the Russian River, according to Sonoma County Sheriff's Office, which sent a helicopter crew to perform a rescue near Vacation Beach in Guerneville area. What happened? You got a family.
So we treat it like any other water rescue, and the swift water ones, can be very dynamic, obviously. So Chris is getting into his wetsuit here at the hangar. I start the helicopter. He jumps in, and off we go. It's about a 3 or 4 minute flight, and we get overhead, and quite clearly you can see the family stranded on the island. The river was running high from the floods that we'd had earlier that year, and but there was an island just upstream a little bit that was a suitable landing spot to set up the line.
Nice.
So
like in the river.
In the river.
Oh,
yeah.
That's awesome.
So I do a quick wire recce. I fly downriver a little bit and I make sure there's no wires. And the reason for that is if any of them become dislodged from the island and we end up going down the river together, I don't want to have to be looking out for wires.
That's a good pilot right there.
It is.
That's an experienced pilot right there.
Yep.
Well done, Nigel.
Thank you. So we land on the island. We throw the line on. Chris jumps, and because he's in the water environment, we've got no radio communications, only hand signals. And so we start with the rescue, and we're going to do the kids first, which is pretty obvious. Get them across to the roadside where the fire guys were, and then we're coming back in to pick up the dad. And so it's all just going according to plan at this point. So 2 kids, the mum, come back to pick up the dad, and Chris goes, change of plan, which is the signal, taps his head, looks up at the helicopter and goes like this, points downstream. And I'm just like, I don't understand what's going on right now, but I'll continue downstream. And we fly right past the dad. And again, I'm not not really sure what's going on, but I know Chris has a plan. And so Chris is kind of pointing and looking, then all of a sudden he points like this.
Like just like that.
Yeah,
Like,
point.
Yeah.
So he's,
Point.
Yep. So
extend the arm a couple times.
Yep.
Got it.
And I'm like, he's got a target, and so I slow up and guide Chris down into that spot, and the rotor wash hits the water, and what I had thought was a garbage bag caught in the trees, because there was garbage everywhere from the floods.
Yeah.
What I thought was a black garbage bag in the trees turned out to be the veil of a nun.
Oh my gosh! What?
Wearing a full habit. And she had evidently gone to help the family in distress, got swept downstream. She is over her head in the river, strong current, hanging onto a little willow branch with just her face above the water, and the rotor wash blows her veil back, her little face is there. And I'm just like, shit just got real. Like,
oh my gosh! What?
so I put Chris in slightly upstream of her because the hydraulic pressure is going to push him into her. He knocks her off the branch.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, it was just kind of bizarre because, I mean, obviously, and it was weird. I mean, you have this family, and we say island. It was like, there probably was an island somewhat below the surface, but it was all like these trees and bushes that were sticking out of the water that this family had gotten caught up on.
Okay.
And so, but they were in a for being stuck in the middle of a raging river, they were actually in a pretty stable spot. So, I get the two kids first, I get the mom, and I said to the mom, and I don't know why I said this, it just popped into my head, and I just said, your husband's the only, I just assumed it was her husband. I go, your husband's the only one, like, left, right? And she goes, no, and the sister, and I'm like, your sister? And she's like, no, the sister, and I'm like, and then I had this epiphany that when we did the wire recon, I had seen a bunch of nuns in like full habits on the shore. And so I'm like, okay, there must be a nun in the water because I did see like nuns when we got here.
Yeah.
So, so as we're flying back, I like all of a sudden see like, oh shit, and it looked like exactly like Nigel said, it looked like a trash bag. And then it was like, as we were getting kind of over the dad, it's like, oh no, that's her. Like that. And so, like Nigel said, he lowers me to her. The thing we do is, for swift water, the dynamics of the water, you've got to rip somebody off what they're on. When you're in true swift water, I can't do it in place because I can't fight the pressure of the water. So I rip her off the branch, and I'm putting her in the rescue strap in the horse collar. And right before I give the up signal, she says to me, "Is this totally necessary?" And it was like I just didn't say it because we were literally out of the water. But I was like, "What are you talking about?" Like, I don't know what your plan was, but like, yes, this is quite necessary. I don't really. So coming out of the water, we go back to the LZ, drop her off with fire. Well, now I go get dad, and it's like, in the back of my head, I'm like, really, we should have gotten. She was like by far the person that was in the most danger, and no one knew she was there. So our river for April was running really high, and the thing is, April in Sonoma County can be 60 degrees outside, and then the next day it could be 85 degrees. Just so. A family from the South Bay, it's an 80-degree day. They come up going, tubing in the Russian River. Probably not on the best day to do it, but that's all I'll say. But then I guess this convent from like Southern California witnesses all this happens, had a rope in the back of their car, and then this one nun attempted to perform a divine intervention, and it obviously didn't go well. So,
my gosh.
And just to paint a picture of where she was at the top of a fast stretch of water that had no outs for about a half a mile.
Oh my gosh. So if she had let go, it would have been a half mile before.
Yep, they would have picked her up at the golf course. Yep.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and just, water's still super high, so there's just, trees and branches. I mean, it's just nasty, lots of snags.
Gosh,
so,
you guys.
So needless to say, I've been living my life essentially because I know I'm going to heaven at this point. So I just kind of do whatever because
You saved
Yeah,
the nun.
I saved the nun.
Oh,
So.
yeah. I think you stamped your ticket right
Yeah,
there. Bob.
exactly. Exactly.
That's not what the railway tracks thought.
That's true. Yeah, I had quite the crash on my bike the other day, so apparently things are catching. The big guy's trying to send me a message to knock it off.
Oh my gosh, guys! It just goes to show, like, you never know what you're gonna get, and the other thing, you can't make this stuff up. You really can't. Like, the nun goes in to help the family in need, and they get washed out, and you got to go save her. That is awesome.
I did go to Catholic school, though, so it all kind of makes sense. And my grandma, to say the least, was like beside herself with excitement. Like, because I think she was probably questioning whether or not I was going to heaven. So then she's like, okay, cool. Now you saved a nun. Everything's fine. So,
Everything's fine.
Yeah. You'll get to see Grandpa and I someday. So
So I could still remember packing up after that. So we had to land back on the island, pack the rope and stuff up. And Chris climbs into the helicopter, puts the towel on his seat, climbs into the helicopter. He's got his helmet back on. He plugs in. First words out of his mouth, "What the was that?" He's looking at me across the cockpit. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, let's go home."
Just another day.
Oh, just another day, just another story. Guys, this has been epic for me. Thank you so much for joining me and telling some of your stories that you guys are doing out. And really, when I say that we're just scratching the surface of what you guys have done here, we are literally just scratching the surface, and this is just incredible. So everything you're doing it right, and I appreciate you coming on and sharing the stories.
we appreciate you making the time to come out all the way out here. And, for a single aircraft, operation like we have here, our agency, I think, puts a lot of, obviously they staff us full time, so we really appreciate that. But I think we do a lot of work for what we've got, and I think obviously it justifies our existence out here. But yeah, we just appreciate you being out here and highlighting some of the stuff we do.
My pleasure. And actually, I'm going to shout out a little bit more because you guys, and we were talking about this in the air earlier, is that you guys don't just support Sonoma County. You go up to Mendocino County, which is just a county north. You've been all the way up to Humboldt County. You go down and you support, and you fly basically right down into San Francisco if needed.
Yep.
So. Yep. That's incredible. Like, freaking kudos, man. It's like, yeah, heck yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting region up here. The fact that you have, essentially us and the Highway Patrol and the Coast Guard that are the rescue helicopters essentially for the majority of the Bay Area. So it's, we're fortunate in this county to have this asset, but, it's not Southern California here. Not every, sheriff's office or police department has a helicopter. So they're kind of spread thin. And I think part of being spread thin is that we get a lot of rescues. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Right on. Like I said, I appreciate you guys coming on. We are in wine country, so we're going to leave here. We're going to go, we're going to do a little wine tasting right after this.
Yeah,
I got to take advantage of this with you guys. I'm just saying. So, and I'll do one more thing, and that is that I get to fly with you guys for the next 2 days and really get a firsthand view of what you guys do. Vertical Magazine's going to be here, and they're going to write a little article about some more stuff that you guys do. So the collaboration of all of this together is going to be just epic. So, again, appreciate you guys being on.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anytime. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are out of here.
Go!
Now, it's time for me to pull chocks and take off. But before I go, I'm always looking for the memorable rescues that people have done. If you have one that you're willing to share or know somebody who has a story, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to highlight it here at the Real ResQ. For everybody that is standing by for that SAR alarm, remember, those in distress are praying for a miracle. They are going to get you. So until next time, fly safe and swim hard. Thank you for joining me today here at the Real ResQ Podcast, powered by Vertical Helicast. We'd also like to say thank you to our sponsors for this episode.
Bell is proud to sponsor Vertical Helicasts and their vision to hold meaningful mission, safety, and best practice conversations in the helicopter industry. The lessons learned from these conversations will undoubtedly shape the future of both new and veteran helicopter operators.
Switlick. No mission is the same. Why should your suit be? Introducing a new custom dry suit experience. Choose your fabric, colors, neck and wrist seals, zippers, pockets, collars, and so much more. Intelligent measuring prompts ensure the most tailored fit. Brought to you by Switlick Survival Products. For more information, visit us at www.switlick.com.
And
Axnis, the Axnis PNG wireless ICS system. delivers cutting-edge wireless ICS technology to any aircraft as a fully integrated system or as a carry-on, carry-off mobile base station. The PNG wireless system is the right solution for any mission.